Hey everyone, it's Sherry with Squatchable, and I'm finally going to cover Season 1, Episode 3 of Expedition Bigfoot. I'm a little bit late getting this together for y'all because I originally was going to record this up in the snow so y'all could have some fun looking at snow, but I slipped and I fell and I got myself injured on my knee and that didn't happen. So I'm recording this a little bit later than I originally planned to. Sorry about that. So this episode, we jumped right into where they left off at with Maria running up the hill, gonna go and find where that sound came from, that responding sound that they located the coordinates with the CTSI or CSTI. CTSI, one of those two. Wherever those location or wherever that coordinates was, that's where she was heading off to. And you can see in this photo here, she originally was gonna give a go for going up this hill, but look at all this debris here. So she quit trying to climb up it because it was way too steep, and she went back to base camp and was basically planning on finding another way around to it. Now, the funny thing is, though, is that she did get kind of like a feeling and everything, and so she started looking around, and she has this here as her night vision camera, and this is the image that came out of it. It's definitely not as good as the one that Russell has, so I don't know. I don't know why they have two different pieces of equipment, but they probably should have given her Russell's. That would have been a little bit better. Also, for everyone, look at this. Proof she has a headlamp. This was not not her little night vision scope thing. She actually has a headlamp. She does not need that horrible lantern that we see her running around with in the show. She has a headlamp. Also, on a side note, did anybody notice? I mean, I know it's a little picky, but look at how perfectly manicured her nails are. My goodness. If I went out into the woods with nails like that, this one would be like halfway missing. You'd see like only a little, I don't know, 1/3 patch of dark charcoal green there. That one probably be like peeled down to there, and I probably would have gnawed that one off. So I find it fascinating that she has such well manicured nails, especially because we have now been informed that they have been there for 1 week. Those are some good looking nails for 1 week in the woods. I don't know how she does it. I need some nail preserving tips out there, because that ain't happening. Okay, so the samples that Russell put his life into the hands of a rope on a rainy day to go down a cliff to get the samples to Bryce. Bryce took those samples over to Jeff Meldrum. So we got to see Dr. Jeff Meldrum on the show, and so I guess this is a sample that they're pretty excited about, including Dr. Meldrum, because there's no medulla in there. If I said that wrong, don't hold it against me. So this particular hair sample is going to go off and get a closer examination. This is the one that came from the bird's nest. The other one turned out to be some known species. Can't remember. They just said it was already known. But I guess this no medulla thing is kind of more of a primate thing. And of course here you can see Dr. Meldrum. He's so cool. And the thing that I thought was kind of funny as a little bit of a build-up thing on this episode is that they made it clear that the whole nest thing was going to be the talking point after they were talking with Dr. Meldrum. With Dr. Meldrum, he said that they could do environmental DNA, and they started talking about nests, and lo and behold, ta-da! Russell Accord runs into this, and at first he's all excited, but then he's like, oh hey, it's a piece of a tree that broke off. So that wasn't the nest that they were looking for in this episode. But it was kind of funny how they had to put this one right there after talking about nests and environmental DNA to kind of try to get us all excited. Although I think a lot of people are probably like, that looks like a broken tree. So in the meantime, they jump back to Maria, and she finally pretty much a whole day later, made it up on top of the hill where the coordinates for the sound was coming from. And this is the view that they have. And I am assuming this is the pond that they were doing the sound calls from and where they did the whole, finding where the sound is coming from thing. So I thought I'd just kind of stop here and show you this. It looks really like a good sighting spot. Like if you're going to be watching what people are doing, this is a good spot to watch from. So I don't know, if I was a Bigfoot, I'd probably want to use that hill too, especially since it looks like with the whole debris on the side that she'd originally tried climbing, it looks like it's hard to get up. Now, we finally have a structure. Look at this. Although Mr. Accord is calling this an A, but you could also say, hey, there's an X there, or there's an X there. I'm not sure, but he said that he didn't find any little end bits that looks like it's just things that naturally fell over. It looks like these are things that were purposefully moved to this area. So for those of you who like tree structures, look at that. This is pretty cool. And once again, Maria is walking around with that horrible, horrible lantern that is shining and illuminating her face as she is walking. This does no good. How can she see? She can't! I don't know, she needs to get back to the headlamp that she proved that she had earlier in the episode. But on her whole night walking expedition, they came across an old log cabin. Now, that she came up on this and was talking about, oh, this is how they made them like 150, 170 years ago. One thing I will say, though, is as she was looking at this, she'd stopped by a cut log, and it was very clean, very well planed out. It wasn't as rustic looking as the rest of this, and it looked like there was like a 1x6 kind of board in there as well. I don't know if they had those particular boards 150 to 170 years ago in the state of Washington, but that's what I saw there too. On this episode, we finally know who Ronnie LeBlanc is. It's this guy here, and yes, he is officially on the show. It's RPG's replacement, and apparently he says he's got ways to lure out Bigfoot. He didn't describe what they were, but I really, really hope to get to see them, because I've heard a lot of fun luring techniques, and this could get entertaining. I really hope this gets entertaining. Also noted, Mr. Russell has a little Bigfoot figurine on his backpack as he's marching around in the woods. I didn't see it in the first part, but he definitely popped out. It looks like he's well secured in there. His little feet are in little straps, and he's got a little bungee there. He's not going anywhere. So even if he doesn't, get out there and find one, he's got one on his backpack. And now they found the nest. Look at the nest. Looky there. It's a bushy nest, and apparently it's got some lush pine needles in there for the luxurious sleeping area. I appreciate that Mr. Accord did not climb in there, and they were able to get some dirt samples from the base of this in order to do some environmental DNA, so it'll be fun to see what they can come up with working with Dr. Meldrum. Another thing that was interesting, though, is that there's also a dead hawk right there. So I think that's a little bit interesting. But they kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit odd because it ties in so well with the witness. So the witness for this episode, his name's Mel Scahan, and he's a forester and a member of the Yakima tribe up there. And he said that when he was out there doing some work, he had found a giant nest on the ground, and he had collected hairs from there. Well, 3 weeks later, he started having like really bad shakes and everything, and so he returned the hairs to that same location. And underneath his windshield wipers, there was hawk feathers. And so, nest, samples, hawks, and, he's basically making it really clear that, Bigfoot doesn't like you taking samples and, bad things are going to happen if you do it, so don't do it. And that is, I guess, how they're kind of trying to tie everything together on this episode with the nests and everything. And I kind of feel like they're stretching it a bit far, but I definitely hope that hawk was naturally there, because those are protected species. Have been for a long time, like over 100 years. So I hope that really was a Bigfoot then that did that hawk. And hopefully, they're not trying too hard there. I hope that really was a Bigfoot that put the hawk there, and hopefully there's not somebody else out there in the woods that's messing around with hawks, because that's a no-no. So overall, this episode was pretty dang cool. I do appreciate that they did follow up with Maria going out to that area. Unfortunately, she got there a whole entire day late, which, speaking of day late, I noticed at one point with the map thing that Maria and Russell had looked really close together, and they said that they were 6 miles apart. So I actually took a moment to do the mathematical calculations, and I suck at math, so if I got it wrong, forgive me on this, but I double checked it with a calculator, so it should be right. Basically, the diameter of this area that they're researching, because it's 90 square acres, the diameter is only 13.4 miles. So I don't know if maybe they're having some continuity problems or something like that, but the fact that on the previous episode that Russell was taking so long to hike up that hill, I don't know. I think that maybe they're having some timeline issues, because PCT hikers, those guys do 20 miles a day when they've been out there chugging. And even if you're like a newbie, there's a guy out there, his name's Second Chance Hiker, and even his first days out on the trail, he was a big gentleman. About how many pounds was he, honey?
Is it 300 pounds?
I think so. I think the Second Chance Hiker guy, he was 300 pounds when he started hiking out there on the PCT, and even he was getting 4 to 6 miles a day, maybe upwards of 10. So this gentleman, Second Chance Hiker, he weighed like 300 pounds when he started, and he was doing more miles than what it sounds like Russell Acord was doing on that day. And yeah, I don't know. I think maybe they need to be a little bit more careful checking on their time span, how long things are taking, or maybe make it clear why it's taking so dang long, because that distance, it just didn't make much sense to me. So there was a few notes that I saw in the comments out on Facebook. John C. Neal II said, "Hope they find something worse soon. Saw the nest, but questionable at this point. Glad to see them get Jeff involved, though. He knows his stuff." I'm happy they got Jeff Meldrum in there, too. Love Jeff Meldrum, and, anytime you get to see him and learn from him, it's a good day. And then over on YouTube, Aaron Kearney said, "Yeah, that stupid cliff climb was, why didn't he just use his drone to fly it down to where the guy pulled up to? Dumb." I hadn't thought about that. I am certain they've got drones. They could have strapped those little hair samples on top of the drone and flown the drone down the cliff instead of sending Russell down the cliff, and we wouldn't have had any Russell crashing into rocks, slipping and sliding and everything else. It would have been a much wiser decision. Why? Just send the samples on the drone. I don't know. We'll never know. We'll probably never know. Or, sometimes you look back and you think, oh, wow, that would have been way smarter than, rappelling down a 450-foot cliff in a thunderstorm. So I think that's it. We'll have to find out if they get any feedback from those samples. I haven't watched the episode yet, even though it's recorded on the TV. I plan to do that tonight, and we'll go from there. Hopefully they find something exciting, and since Dr. Meldrum is kind of dealing with that part, I trust what's going to be coming out of there. I trust he's going to tell us, what he sees there and, what his thoughts are on it. So until the next episode, bye!